while pointing out the need to move beyond the preparatory stages. Madam President, regrettably, the relatively positive news from Geneva is outweighed by grim news on the ground. The alleged use of chemical weapons last week is an affront to humanity and blatant violation of Security Council resolutions. The Council must reaffirm its determination to urgently address this alleged use of chemical weapons. At the same time, we must not lose sight of the humanitarian situation as a whole. Even with a monthly meeting on the humanitarian situation, it is important that we emphasize it here in the context of political process as well. We were shocked by the use of chemical weapons, but we have also been shocked by many months, by the enormous number of besieged people, now at 644,000 according to OCHA. Madam President, Japan's position is clear. We will continue our assistance to all Syrian people in need. This means not simply contributing funds, but taking the responsibility to ensure that aid reaches the people who need it. For this reason, our attention turns again to the United Nations' repeated warnings that bureaucratic impediments are the main obstacles to humanitarian access. We have repeatedly urged the Syrian government, which bears primary responsibility for this obstructed access, to simplify procedures. Japan is deeply disappointed that even on occasions when the Syrian government has responded, we have not seen any significant change. We will continue to engage closely with other relevant parties to improve access, but we cannot fully succeed without the Syrian government's cooperation. Madam President, last year, Mr. de Mistura often used the metaphor of a three-legged stool for Syria. The first leg, the political process, seems more steady after the recent Geneva talks, and we strongly support UN efforts there. The second leg, the ceasefire, is starting to wobble with news about fighting. Japan supports efforts by the three guarantors of the Astana process, the only functioning ceasefire mechanism at the present time. We are also encouraged that Mr. de Mistura is extending support to Astana. The third leg, the humanitarian access, is very unstable. We need to see major improvements to send a clear message to the Syrian people that they have not been abandoned. Madam President, the facts are clear. The ISSG continues to work despite some confrontations. UN mediation is making some progress. Humanitarian bodies are making their utmost effort under difficult circumstances. The OPCW and JIM are ready to implement their mandates. But what about the Security Council? We must prove that this institution is also serious about finding a solution to this crisis. Proof is long overdue. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Japan, and now I will give the floor to the representative of China.
Thank you, Madam President. China welcomes the convening of today's open meeting and thanks Special Envoy de Mistura for his briefing. The Syrian conflict has been going on for 6 years now, resulting in large civilian casualties and state destruction. China is deeply sympathetic to the suffering endured by the Syrian people and strongly appeal to all Syrian parties to proceed from the future of the country and the welfare of its people to find an appropriate solution to the conflict sooner through dialogue and consultation. Recently, the relevant parties made joint diplomatic efforts and launched the Astana talks on Syria. maintained the overall momentum of Syrian ceasefire and created conditions to resume the Geneva talks. China hopes that the Astana talks continue to play its important role in maintaining ceasefire and advancing Geneva talks for progress. Political solution is the only way out for the Syrian issue. Military means will not solve the problem. In the last round of Geneva talks, all Syrian parties negotiated on the 4 baskets of issues on political governance, constitutional issues, election, and counterterrorism, security, and confidence-building measures. This gave expression to their attitude of earnest participation and enabled positive progress in the political process of Syria. Under the current situation, all relevant parties should stick to and not waver on diplomatic efforts, prevent the deterioration of the Syrian situation, continue to support the UN as the main channel for good offices, and support the work of Special Envoy de Mistura. The Security Council should prioritize the interest of Syria and its people and play its constructive role in advancing the Syrian political process. China appeals to all Syrian parties to continue to maintain ceasefire, follow the Syrian-owned and Syrian-led principle to gradually come up with a comprehensive and durable solution acceptable to all through dialogue and negotiation. The fight against terrorism is an important and pressing issue in the solution of the Syrian issue. Counterterrorism situation in some parts of Syria has taken on new complexities recently. The international community should be highly vigilant on related development, strengthen coordination and cooperation, unify standards, and fight against all terrorist organizations listed by the Security Council. China welcomes the Brussels International Conference on Syria convened recently. China would like to work with the international community and continue to play our positive and constructive role in advancing the political solution of the Syrian issue and easing the humanitarian situation of Syria, so as to advance a comprehensive, just, and appropriate solution to the Syrian issue at an early date. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of China and now give the floor to the representative of Sweden.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and also a great thank you to Staffan de Mistura for his efforts.